The attack on Iran is obviously a war crime, and anybody who claims that it isn't or tries to spin it is in some way conflicted out. This is without authority, without any lawful authority, without UN authority, and without having been attacked, just an attack. And it's an attack to kill the rulers of the country and to try and take it over. It's just a full-on war crime, and they've killed a bunch of civilians. Now, having said that, I'm no fan of the Iranian regime for obvious reasons that they've suppressed human rights in their own country. Lots of people around the world want to see it change, but that's a separate issue, of course. What really bothers me is that Iran has supplied Russia with weapons and prolonged the war. Ukraine would have won outright a long time ago, but for Shahed drones. So I'm not sympathetic with the Iranian regime at all, but let's not forget that this is a war crime. Now, what is happening here over and over? We see the U.S. going in and abducting a leader of another country, the U.S. going and bombing another country, killing civilians, killing the leader, and this is just sort of paving the way for demonstrating that the rule of law does not apply. And this is why I was disappointed with Mark Carney's original statement in quasi-support of the U.S. and Israel here, because this is a complete disregard of the rule of law. And what does it tell you? It tells you that if you're a country, the only thing you can do to protect yourself is have nuclear weapons. And that, of course, is what North Korea's done. They've got nuclear weapons. Nobody's trying to invade them, and nobody's even threatening to invade them. So here's Greenland and Canada looking at the U.S. now as a threat and thinking to themselves, well, what are we supposed to do? I mean, if all they have to do is wait until the Olympics are over and then attack Iran, what's going to be their moment to attack Denmark or Greenland? I mean, you just don't know, because the rule of law doesn't apply anymore, because the U.S., the one country that could actually go ahead and do this and that we're not going to hold responsible down the road, is doing this, and just doing it essentially because we're not holding them responsible. They're doing it with impunity. Will Donald Trump ever be arrested as and charged with crimes against humanity? He's killing civilians in an unlawful war. He should be. He should be charged with it. He should be arrested, but it's not going to happen. Netanyahu, of course, there's an arrest warrant for him, and a lot of Israelis hate him, okay, but there's an arrest warrant for him. It's never going to happen. He's never going to get arrested. You know, I have to question the whole premise of the October 7th attacks. Awful attacks, but they have been used to commit genocide against the Palestinian people, and been used to justify this ongoing attacks against, and now the attacks against Iran. And this is a circumstance where they've got Mossad, like the most effective spy agency in the world, and they've also are everywhere, right? Like they are so deeply, the Israelis are so deeply embedded in the U.S. government, in the U.S. They spy on the U.S. We know all about this. How did they not know that that was going to happen? That a bunch of guys were going to come and driving in trucks into this event and start killing kids? You know, you got to suspect when they've got their pagers, right, and they've managed to put bombs in their pagers, that they've been listening to everything that they've been saying and all of the planning behind it. Anyway, that's maybe a conspiracy theory, maybe not, I don't know. But like the way that Israel has behaved is so disproportionate to that attack. And this is all Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been a bad guy for forever and has claimed for forever that Iran's got nuclear weapons. Now, remember, back when Hans Blix was called before the UN to talk about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and he went on and said, look, they don't exist. There's no Iraqi nuclear program. They've got nothing. And the Americans continued to try and push this narrative for the sake of invading. Well, there's no more pretext. Like, it's no longer, they don't even attempt to hide it now. But now we've got, of course, Trump backing up a little bit and saying, well, we had to attack them and destroy their stuff because we knew Israel was going to attack them and we were therefore going to be attacked. What kind of bullshit is that? And, these MAGA people who voted for Trump when it was like clearly laid out by many critics, including people who were running against him in the Republican nomination, what he was going to do, how he was going to set it up to be able to attack Iran. It was laid out. It was obvious that this was going to happen. So let's get back to the rule of law. The rule of law, maybe it was all a fraud, right? Maybe internationally the rule of law did not apply. It only applied to nations that basically the victor's justice all the time. What's going to happen now? You've got a country with 92 million people, and they've been attacked. And yeah, a lot of people who live there really didn't like the regime. But you've got a complete government infrastructure that exists, that's in there, and continues to be able to govern the people, and will continue to be able to govern the people, unless you're going to come and kill the 92 million people, which Israel probably would do. The Israelis don't want that, but the Israeli government under Netanyahu have no problem with genocide. But you've got this still intact structure. That's not going to change. You've got a very advanced society, much more advanced than Afghanistan, where there basically were goat herders and fairly primitive society in the with respect to the way that the technology and the structure of the government. But all of that stuff exists and well structured in Iran, and you're not going to just get rid of the government. And what happens when you're attacked? What happens when you're attacked by the great Satan? Do you think people just, go, oh, this is great, welcome liberators bombing us from afar with drones and so forth? No, that's not what people think. People think we have to protect ourselves from these assholes. So they polarize, they gather together. And so this great midterm election war, the great Jeffrey Epstein Island attacking Iran war, this great, the distraction, Israel distraction, Epstein, Mossad connection to Epstein war that we're having, is just going to polarize the people more in Iran. And it's going to eventually, they're doing it now because the midterms are months down the road, in the hopes that there are some terrorist attacks against American targets. So then they can justify harsher response, which will maybe help Trump in the polls. And that's as creepy as you can possibly imagine, because look at the timing for the midterms. America, they are a belligerent nation that just goes around attacking other nations. They're not a nation of peace at all. They're not a nation of democracy at all, because we can see that the elections are certainly capable of being taken over, as we're watching in the U.S. now, and have been heavily influenced by foreign sources, Israel in particular. Everybody is in the pocket of the Israelis in the U.S. government, elected officials. This is not a democracy. This is not a peaceful nation. This is a belligerent nation that is going out and attacking people. And maybe the people are saying, oh, MAGA's is fracturing here. I don't think so. You just watch, because Americans tend to polarize around a war, and then they reelect the party that's got, is the war party. And so this is what's going to happen. Now, as far as the rule of law is concerned, there's been plenty of examples where it's been disregarded. And, Obama bombing in Libya is a perfect example of that. But this is really just laying bare the fact that the rule of law does not apply to the U.S. because nobody is holding them responsible and nobody is holding them accountable. And even when Trump, with the January 6th and taking the documents, they failed to hold him accountable there. They are incapable of holding their officials accountable. They've got a whole pedophilia ring, basically, that is in the administration now. And nobody is holding any of the Americans responsible, despite the fact that there are thousands and thousands of pages of documents. I think it's millions of pages of documents connecting these people. Nobody's conducting interviews to go in and investigate any of this properly. Why? Because it's a fraud. The nation is a fraud. The idea of justice in the U.S. is a fraud. The idea of being a peaceful democracy is a fraud. And it's been laid bare. It's been laid bare for us now. So we're going to see polarization, a war with a country with 92 million people that's going to fight back. And this is just going to be messy. Trump started World War III.